Right, so we're at the Bec Jaune Brewery in Morzine with Matt,
Hi.
who, as you put it, are one half of the Bec Jaune.
Yep.
And I wanted to come and chat to you today mostly to really talk about passion for food. That's something that's really important, really key in what we do. I know it's really important for you as well. We were having a chat in the summer, and I just wanted to showcase that a bit, really. So just sort of to chat in about that. Starting point, your main, I don't know, tagline, I suppose. We don't say it's homemade because it all is.
Yeah. I think that was something that came up pretty early on in the sort of genesis of the restaurant. Is I came to it from a point of I'd been a baker beforehand, and when we opened, we sort of very much focused on sort of buns and burgers, pulled pork buns and stuff. And I came here with the idea that I wanted to make everything in that dish here in-house, because otherwise you're not really a restaurant, you're just a shop that assembles other people's food.
Which is pretty standard.
Well, yeah.
Particularly in the mountains.
Yeah. So when you start looking at writing a menu and everything on that menu, other restaurants would say, oh, I don't know, for example, homemade mayonnaise or whatever. If every item on your menu is homemade, then it makes the menu ridiculous if you put homemade in front of every item. So we just came up with, it seemed to make sense to say, we don't say it's homemade because it all is. And I mean, the funny thing is 10 years down the line, we've been doing that for 10 years and people still walk in and don't realise that we make everything here.
And I think that's something I wanted to kind of like get out there a little bit, because a lot of people, I always think that like as a restaurant, like the passion you have for that is a little bit misunderstood. Like even when you introduced it a minute ago before we started filming, you said the Bec Jaune Brewery. And I think that's how most people see the tanks.
Yeah.
They know the beer and they see it more like as a brew pub that kind of does food. But when we were speaking in the summer, you're not just like the chef in a brew pub, you're a restaurateur, like without a doubt. Or in my mind you are. The way you talk about developing those menus, planning them, what you put into them, that's not cash.
No, it's it's funny because it very much the evolution when we started the Bec was that it was going to be a brew pub with some good food, and very quickly it sort of developed into a full kind of experience of homemade food, homemade beer, trying to do the best quality we could. And the whole thing was what people wanted. They wanted the full food, drink package together. So it's funny because I was talking to my chef, Rob, a couple of days ago about kind of the split of what we're doing, and we're making more money on food than we do on drinks, which is
not
sort
how
of
you saw it originally.
No, definitely not. And it you realise that when you're offering people good quality food, it is appreciated and people will come back, and so you'll sell a lot of food. People aren't just coming here for drinks.
No. And are you getting, because one of the things you spoke about is trying to build that reputation, like not just, I think within Morzine, you're pretty well known, you're busy, you must run largely fully booked through the winter.
Yeah.
But you were speaking about trying to build that reputation and almost get people recognising you as like a destination restaurant within the area.
Yeah, that's very much the goal now. Kind of, we've seen the restaurants sort of, not peak capacity, but we're very busy in winter and we can be very busy in summer. And then I think always for me at the start, and for Kriegel as well, it's kind of more of a being part of a community as well as just a seasonal restaurant.
Yeah.
We live here year round. We moved here originally because it's a town, not because it's a ski resort. there is a school, there is, things for people to do. There's a life here outside of ski season, and we very much wanted to be part of a community that supported that year-round life. So if we're here in those times, then we want our business to be supporting the town, and also, with that, we want to be bringing, people to recognise what we're doing and the effort that we're putting in from the regions around. People will drive to go to good restaurants in this area. So we want to try and get our name out there as a destination for good food, good drink.
I think one of the things I also had a little flick through. I thought I'll do a bit of research, try and do it professionally. And I thought I'll have a little look at some of their reviews, see how they come out. And
I hope you saw the one saying the dog is a menace and it stole my baby's pacifier.
I didn't see
that. Was from 2 years in, That was quite a while ago.
Dogs can be a menace.
They can be.
I think the thing that kind of actually almost came up quite a bit, particularly amongst like French clients and French reviews, there was like quite a common theme of, wow, really surprised, blew me away, not what I was expecting. And most of those references were actually in relation to like tout maison, in terms of all the food being like cooked here and prepared here, which really resonated with that audience, and just generally being like blown away at the produce. So that was quite cool. I also found a review that I wrote for you 5 years ago.
Did you?
But
I hope it was 5 stars.
It was 5 stars.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
We'll come back to that.
Had I given you free mezcal that evening?
Probably.
Yeah. Good.
Actually, we'll kind of go down that route. We'll use that the mezcal thing, because one of the other things that kind of I was reflecting on is that I would like clearly put you in the category as like trendsetters, as opposed, you don't jump on bandwagons, you're not kind of like pretentious or over the top in things you do. You do things because of the passion that you have for them. So with the mezcal reference came from, I don't know if it's still a passion, but Matt definitely had a passion for one winter where a huge range of tequilas suddenly made it onto the menu, lots of different mezcals as well, and they were kind of very much just like part of the menu that year. And that came up the other day because I was speaking with actually a property owner that we work with who was very enthusiastic about high-end spirits and alcohols, and he was talking about some seriously expensive mezcals, and I was like, it's old hat. Did that
6 years ago,
Doing that at the back with Matt 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think there's been a few things that are like that over the years. I don't know, is that just from where do you get that from? Is that something you search out, or is that just because you love food, drink, and...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, most of, I would say, what we do here is because we're interested in the things that we're doing. I struggle to think of a point in the last 10 years where we've done something simply because we think it will make us more money. That doesn't really interest me. I'm interested at work when the food is interesting, the processes are interesting, I'm learning something new. I guess that's the thing with the mezcal. It was as much a discovery for me as I guess I was trying to show to the customers, or we were trying to show to the customers. I'd started ordering products from a company in the UK back in the good old glory days when that was still easy. And they were an importer of Mexican goods, and so I was looking to them for smoked chilies, like varieties of dried chilies that they imported from Mexico, which were absolutely amazing. But they also sold mezcal and tequila. And I just thought it'd be fun while I'm doing an order for dried chilies just to chuck a few bottles of mezcal in there, mainly for the experience of sharing it with the people that worked here.
Yeah.
So, we got in 3 bottles, we tried them, we were blown away by I'd never tasted a drink like it. I guess, the closest thing people probably talk about is kind of peaty, smoky Scotch whiskies. but then you learn about the process and how it's made and how artisanal it is, and then that kind of made me more excited about them. And we haven't, we don't stock a range of mezcals now. We generally have like one mezcal on the bar, because still a lot of people have never tried it. And it's just cool to broaden people's horizons, I think. I mean, it was just like, I'd never tasted anything like it, and it's cool to show, I think, to a degree, I think, as a restaurateur, the idea of going to a restaurant is experience things you wouldn't have at home.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't want to go to a restaurant and eat food that I cook for myself.
No.
So it's the same with the drinks. I mean, the guys on the brewing are doing stuff they're interested in, stuff they like. It's cool. It's just interesting. Keeps work interesting.
I think, and I think that passion and that, I don't know, the creativity and the enthusiasm for that's quite, that can be, like, in my opinion, quite powerful for like clients. So certainly for me coming here, that's always been part of what's kind of kept it fresh, kept it interesting, and kept it definitely a slightly elevated experience over kind of alternates, which are just more functional in terms of that here's food, here's drink.
Yeah.
And like what you're saying there with the mezcal kind of resonates with me, certainly. Probably not quite to the same extent now, but in the past, wine was definitely sort of similar for us. We used to, the passion I had for going and exploring vineyards, meeting suppliers, going on trips with distributors, etc. We brought all that back in, and it was almost a combination of a hobby, but a hobby was fueling, hopefully, a really great selection of wines and a really great wine list.
I think, customers can feel that, right? Or you hope they can. I think the difficulty comes because obviously I was giving you the mezcal.
Translating.
So I was super excited about it. Translating that to staff and then getting staff equally interested. But that was the sort of the point with the mezcal. It was like, well, we'll get it in, we'll all drink it, and then, oh well, I suppose we can sell it as well.
Yeah.
And then the staff are like, oh, we've got this cool stuff. We've all tried it.
Yeah. Don't know a lot about it, but it tastes nice.
Yeah, exactly. But that's, I mean, to a degree, that's how you get people hooked to start with, right? Is just giving them a taste of something new, and then if people want more information, go in deeper on something, then they can. It's and I get that kind of sense a lot when you've got holiday makers. A lot of people are just here for a good time. They're maybe not so focused on our morals, our ethics, the lengths we're going to provide what's on their plate and in their glass. And that's fine, but it's there if they want it.
Yeah.
If they want that knowledge,
I think you should chat about that a little bit more.
That's
part of why I was like, we should have this chat, because I think that's missed a lot of the time.
Yeah. It's very difficult to communicate, I think.
Yeah. So let's move down that way a little bit. I kind of want to come back to some of the trends, so there's a couple of references. But in terms of like sourcing, because you're buying loads of stuff now locally, which always blows my brain a bit, because like produce in the Alps is very seasonal and quite variable, but you're buying grains for bread, all the breads which you're still making here, you're buying that from...
Yeah, so I mean, not even. It's in Massangy, which is just down towards Lac Le Mans.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems to be quite good fertile growing land down towards Lac Le Mans. It's a very small area, I guess. So you're not going to provide food for all of the Alps with that.
But yeah,
exactly. I mean so all the grains, so our flour, our wheat flour, then we're getting spelt, einkorn. They also grow lentils, green lentils, that we're trying to use more and more. They've this year started providing polenta as well, so they're growing corn for polenta and corn flour. And that's all organic, and it's all stone ground, which is super unusual.
Especially out here.
Yeah.
I mean, this type of thing in the UK
quite
is probably a
industrial,
bit
right?
more, I don't know, the UK is a bit more stubborn at holding on to its history, but the French generally are very like,
well, the glory years the golden age was the sort of 60s, 70s with the huge explosion in kind of industrial agriculture and producing more food, right? That was the Belle Epoque.
But it's pretty cool that here now you're able to find like an artisan, a small scale producer doing that variety, but with quality.
Yeah.
40, 50 minutes.
Oh, less. Yeah. I mean, what? Yeah, 30 kilometers or something. And then not far from them is an organic veg grower who are here at the market on Wednesdays, which is how we met them. And I
love the chat about that, about how many crates of tomatoes get delivered for the tomato. How many was it?
So this year, kind of as part of our drive to do, well, I mean, when you start taking everything's homemade to its logical conclusion, that's going from raw vegetables rather than we were making sauces with like tinned tomatoes.
Concentrates and stuff.
Yeah. And now, so this year we thought we'd try to make enough ketchup for the year at the end of tomato growing season. So I think we went through 120 kilos of tomatoes.
Yeah.
I bought a lot.
Quite a lot.
I mean, kind of we did it in sort of 2 or 3 batches, but kind of a 6-foot high stack of cases of tomatoes. So I ordered a tomato pulper from Italy, and just spent a few days kind of in it, which is also useful for the interseason thing, because we're quieter in say September. We're still open, we're still selling food, but we've got more time in the kitchen to process this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, you make your ketchup, you jar it all up. We took the waste skins and seeds and fermented that with koji, dried it out, and then turned it into a powder that we're using to make togarashi for this winter's ramen.
Yeah, there you go. When I said at the start that I think there was a lot more
people aren't going to... Yeah. Back to the communication thing, it's very difficult to sort of the steps that we go through to put these elements on people's plates is quite lengthy and could be very wordy and worthy sounding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the proof's in the tasting, right? I mean, it does.
And we could buy a similar product from the Asian store down in Bonneville. And it would taste as good, maybe even better, because it's, made in Japan to a Japanese recipe, blah, blah, blah. But the idea is to...
a whole load of preservatives and...
Yeah, and even exactly. And then it's put in jars and shipped from Japan to here. Like, the goal is to try and use local products, cut down our reliance on stuff being shipped long distances, make it more circular, try not to waste stuff. Those tomato skins, they have a load of flavour in them. Why throw that in the bin? Why compost it when you can turn it into something delicious? That's kind of the whole ethos around it now. We kind of evolved over the last 10 years to really try and push towards not wasting anything, making it all circular, making the most out of the ingredients that we get from here that might be more expensive, but if you use all of them to their maximum potential, then you're not only doing good for your balance sheet, but you're also doing good for the planet. You're trying to highlight the stuff that's grown around here. Like, it's amazing, like you say, it's super seasonal. The fact that there's a farm growing amazing organic vegetables 20 kilometers from here, like, you want to support them.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It's super cool to see people doing that kind of stuff. So, but you have to buy their products to support. To
keep them going, yeah. I was going to move us and talk a bit about some of the other trends.
Yeah.
With the tomato powder on the ramen. Like when we spoke about the mezcal earlier, and like as I was saying, like my sort of immediate reaction was sort of my first kind of foray into that really was here, as you said, like 6 years ago. Interestingly, back in Bath now, there's quite a good sort of restaurant cum Mexican bar that's opened in the past year, called Dos Dedos, which is like really focused on mezcal and tequila. And again, it's like,
Yeah.
seen that. It's good, but yeah, we're not breaking new ground. And for me, it was similar with, I don't know, things like ramens and poke bowls and some of the other stuff you put on your menu here. Quite a fusiony mix, but stuff now that is like, dare I say, kind of quite common. But it didn't feel common when you started doing it. So,
Yeah, it's we've always, right from the day we opened, I feel like we were ploughing a furrow that a lot of people have followed in Morzine. Before we opened, there wasn't a brewery in Morzine. I don't think it was a sure thing that you'd open a microbrewery in a small town ski resort and sell the food that we were selling, and it would definitely be a hit. And I think we've paved the way for a lot of other places to open, which is cool. You know, it's more variety in town. It's I guess you know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery to a degree. But in terms of trends, I think it comes back to that thing of, you know, mezcal's not a trend for Mexicans. No. They've been producing it for hundreds of years. Yeah. It's just that we didn't discover it, but, you know, I saw it and tried it and was excited about it. So I think a lot of the food that we'll see here is also just a similar process. And I think, you know, the way food culture works, a lot of that does turn into trends nowadays because of it diffusing through the internet so quickly. I mean, how many cities do you go to in the world now that have a dish with burrata on them? Yeah. It's a bit homogenizing, I think.
Yeah,
which is the bad way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, that's why keeping it fresh. And adding in layers and adding in personality is important to it. So otherwise, everywhere is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what informs our drive for local produce, is because you hope that by using local produce, even if you're producing or creating dishes that might have a simulacrum in Japan, it'll taste different because we're using vegetables from Haute-Savoie.
Your spin on it as well.
We're using pork that is raised in Evian, you know, by a guy that is, you know, it's all outdoor reared. It's, you know, old breeds, slow growing. So you hope that I don't want it to taste like a bowl of ramen I'm not trying to copy a bowl of ramen in Japan. We are taking techniques that they maybe use in Japan, like using koji, fermenting products, and trying to create something that's a true reflection of this area, but maybe with techniques from somewhere else.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't excite me if you go to a restaurant where they buy soy sauce from Japan and then make a bowl of ramen that tastes like a slightly less good bowl of Japanese ramen.
Yeah. So what is, in terms of all the different things you've had on your menu, what's your top three things that you've done? Whether that's a main, a starter, a side.
For the customers or for me?
I actually had both of those questions written down because I knew that the answers would be different. So start with you.
Definitely the ramen that we have on at the moment has been probably a 5-year project. Right. And we started off, the reason we started making ramen is because we got a chef in who'd worked in Japan for 3 seasons. And I've always been very interested in Japanese food. And with his expertise, but with his experience of being in Japan for that amount of time, it seemed like a great opportunity to try and make ramen here. And we started by buying in the noodles and, you know, using bought-in soy sauce and misos and so on. But the goal always in the back of my mind at that time, and especially with Rob, who's come on as our head chef, who's driven a lot of the kind of fermentation processes, the goal was always to have a local ramen, was to have a bowl of soup made from products from here, make our own noodles with flour from here. And this year we've really hit that goal, I think, in terms of making a delicious bowl of soup. The seaweed we use for the dashi is from the north of Spain. So it's not from, we're not importing Japanese seaweed. The next step is to try and find European shiitake mushrooms. So there's always like a drive to make it more local, shorter supply routes for us. But then, the fact that we're making noodles with flour from 20 kilometers away, that we're really happy with. We're happy with the product, and the toppings. Organic veg on there, local free-range pork. I think we're really happy with where the ramen is now. So that's probably kind of
number one,
the peak example of where we've developed the idea to its fullest potential. There's still a tiny way to go to make it the 100% idea of what we wanted, but I'm super happy with that. I'm going to do a customer and one of mine, which is probably the mushroom nuggets that we make.
Okay.
Just because, I am trying to reduce our reliance on meat because it's not great for the planet. So to make something that kind of stands in for chicken using a mushroom is a good thing. They are delicious. They're crunchy. People love them.
I am a bit of a carnivore.
Yeah.
But I will admit one of the most memorable things I've eaten in my life, not here I'm afraid, it's referenced somewhere else, but it was a mushroom burger. And, it was at a vegan restaurant that I accidentally wandered into. But it was incredible.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with it, and I look at that stuff from a personal point of view. Again, coming back to that thing of we don't really do things to make money, because I could just buy in cheaper chicken and make chicken nuggets. But it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right with me. I don't want to do that. I don't think it's good for the planet. And as much as people come out on holiday and they're not thinking about it, I'm working here every day. So it's my ethics and morals that drive that.
I think it's not even just that, is it though? It's also, and again, showcasing the food and a reason to eat food here as opposed to somewhere else potentially. Like the quality of those ingredients kind of matters. Like something that we get fed back a lot through our clients is that sometimes over a week, like ski holidays, you'd think that they should be a healthy thing, lots of activity, lots of exercise. But often because the food can be not the healthiest and it can be in overwhelming quantity, a lot of people often feel that they leave a ski holiday
needing a holiday.
Yeah, tired, less healthy, and maybe even sometimes run down. I'm a great believer. I firmly believe, kind of, you are what you eat. Like a lot of the time when I meet people in life who seem to, I don't know, it's a bit of a generalization, probably not something I should say on camera, but I think a lot of people, like if you've got a bad diet, you are likely to be more prone to illness and not
I think the science is fairly sound on that now.
So I think, like for me, if I think about myself as a parent as well, like with my kids, would I choose to take them somewhere where they could have like mushroom nuggets that are like homemade using good vegetable produce going in there versus a fried bought in frozen mass-produced processed chicken nugget in a lot of places, which it would definitely be a fairly standard item on the menu, like all over the world, to be perfectly honest. That would be a big swing for me of here.
We don't push. I don't think it's very difficult to run a restaurant and push the healthy angle on people. But I think it brings me more joy to use a variety of ingredients that are good for you. In inverted commas.
I always think people overthink that because it's not about eating salad every day.
No.
Is it? It's just like real food.
Yeah.
food that like ingredients that are grown, you know, processed like lightly in a kitchen with like a knife and a pan or a grinder or etc., and not being pulped out in a factory with loads of chemicals added and like overly messed with.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going off topic. We've got the 5-year ramen, which I don't think
yeah.
I've tried yet, so I'm going to be back in for that later. We've got the mushroom nuggets and the final one.
Oh, crikey. Dish that I'm happiest with?
Or side or...
Yeah, anything that I've... I mean, it changes so often. Like through a course of a season, you'll start really excited about something, and then you make so many of them that you kind of lose the excitement about it. But probably not a dish or a side, but an element that goes into a lot of our dishes is the bread shoyu that we make, because that's back again into like the circular. So we make our own buns with local organic stone ground flour. The waste of those buns, so what we don't sell, gets ground up and toasted and then fermented with koji that we grow here over a kind of 6-month period. And then at the end of that, you get a product that's like soy sauce.
Right.
And that's our bread shoyu that goes in to season our ramen, but also goes into like our teriyaki sauce that we're putting on the teriyaki bowl this winter.
From stale bread.
Yeah, from and it's a fully kind of circular process. Like we're not throwing away that bread at the end of the day that isn't good enough for our hamburgers or vegan burgers. It's we're using that bread to then make something else that's delicious. And I think that's probably, like as an element, that's kind of something that I'm really
Proud of.
Yeah.
You should be. So from the customer side?
Mushroom nuggets.
Yeah.
The Scotch egg. I mean, when we started, we were kind of famous for the Scotch egg, which comes back every now and then, because when we get our pork in once a month from our local farmer, a good way to use some of that pork that's not a prime cut is to mince it and use it for Scotch eggs. So they are still an occasional feature on the menu.
Yeah.
And then what else do people? I mean, we've just passed our 10-year anniversary, and a lot of people we had a day of putting old classics back on the menu. There are a lot of people demanding shitballs, which was something that was on the menu for a couple of years, which was just kind of a deep fried sweet potato, cheese and jalapeno thing.
Very yummy.
Yeah, and then we did for a couple of summers a lamb wrap that was very popular.
I mean, and it kind of did all start with the pulled pork bun.
It did. That was kind of the genesis. Yeah.
That was my alternate video title. It all started with the pulled pork bun. But I don't know that would have really landed on enough people, so we're not going to use that. But cool. Well, thank you, Matt. I think that's fab. Do you want to hear what I wrote then 5 years ago? Some of it, because it's a good. This is standard for me. It's long-winded and overtyped.
Right, but good.
The general gist was, if the Bec Jaune were in central London or New York, it would still do well. And I said that's saying something to find that in a bar in a small town in the Alps. Formula based on great homemade food, fabulous beers brewed in house. But at the same time, it's always fresh. The menu's always been updated. It's without fail on trend, but not following, as we said earlier. What these guys do locally, now many try and imitate. Team friendly, it's cosy, thumbs up all round, refreshing break for the norm in the Alps. So yeah, wrote that 5 years ago apparently, and I'm still true today. So
that's kind of the goal. Yeah, I think that's where we'd like to stay.
Cheers.
Cheers.